Hey, welcome back to MOBA. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create the Lambda function for the contact page. Now, before we get started, I just want to let you know that this video is going to be on the longer side. So there's a lot of material to cover, a lot of technical details. Also, it's bordering on developer work. I mean, I guess you could call it development work. So if you're not a developer, you may have some trouble following along. But just ride with me and see how it goes, and try to get as much out of it as you can. And keep in mind, you can always go back and watch it again. I had to make a few passes with this because I ran into some issues that I had to figure out, and we'll talk about that some along the way. But I'll also probably have some independent videos just to talk about the issues that you might encounter so that you can get this working for yourself. Okay, before actually creating the function, I want to create the role for the function. It just makes it a little easier later when we get to that part. So from the console, go to IAM. Select the roles under Access Management. Click Create Role. Under the section that says Use Case, select Lambda. Click Next. Here we want to add permissions, so search for Amazon SES, and I'm using email for this example, so that's why we need SMS. Click Next. Search for logs and select CloudWatch Logs Full Access. If I didn't mention it in the previous slide, you want to select the permission that was highlighted in blue. So, and CloudWatch Logs enables us to troubleshoot our code. We're not going to go over that in this video, but the next one, if I do another one, I'll cover it there because it's kind of a, number one, this video is going to be long enough. Number two, I think it justifies having its own video. So I can go into a little more detail. Okay, so here, click Next. Enter your role name. Scroll down. Under step 2, add permissions, review that, and make sure that you have these two permissions selected: Amazon SES Full Access and CloudWatch Logs Full Access. Click Create Role. Okay, here we're going to get started with creating the Lambda function. So on the console home, click Lambda. Click Create Function. Give your function a name. For the runtime, select Python. Expand the section that says Change Default Execution Role. Select Use an Existing Role. And then where it says Existing Role, select the role that we created in the previous steps. Under Advanced Settings, select Enable Function URL, and we'll talk about that later. Under Auth Type, select None. That makes, it makes it easier to show you this without creating any kind of authentication. So in this case, we're not going to do that, but it tells you that this policy makes your function public to anyone with a function URL, which is a bad thing. You don't want anybody else, pulling up on your function and running up your AWS bill. Scroll down, review the policy statement, click Create Function. Okay, here we can see that we've successfully created the function. And I want to apologize for the quality of the slides going forward, because after I captured the slides the first time, they weren't high quality, but then I realized I was exposing my endpoint name, which I don't want to do. And you shouldn't want to do either, because you're just giving people more information than they need. That's sort of private, right? Only your code needs to know what their endpoint name is. Okay, here's the code that we're going to use. This is Python code, and we're going to replace the code that, we're going to replace the default code that you get for a Lambda function, but I'll show you that. Okay, so on the code tab for your function, go to the little black the area that has the black window that has the code and copy everything that's there and just replace it with the code that I showed you in the previous slide. And then you want to click deploy. Okay, so what this does is it uploads your code to the cloud, and at this point, we can run the code. So, but in order to run the code, you need somewhere to invoke it. So we're going to create a test. So click the test button. Okay, here where it says configure test event, you want to give your event a name. It could be anything you want. Down where it says event JSON, these are the parameters that we're going to provide to the function when it gets called. So we have first name, last name, email address, and email message. So make sure that your text there looks just like this. Click save. Okay, so we've generated the tests. Now we want to click the test button. Oh man, status failed. We got a problem. Okay, so it tells you here in the response that there's a syntax error on line 12. So when I went back and I looked at the code, I see this indent, and I believe it mentioned that in the error message on the previous slide, but we want to fix that. So what I did was I put all the code on one line just so that we wouldn't have two lines, it wouldn't wrap. And then we click deploy. Click test. Oh man, it failed again. Okay, this time it had an issue with the email, the text for the email. So I went back. I made a change there. I clicked test. Test succeeded. And what I highlight is the HTTP status code 200, which means basically a success. And here's the email that I received. And you notice we have the name Greg there, which was one of the values of the parameters that was passed. Because this is just showing you for the summary where the function URL is. So that's what you would use in order to call this Lambda function outside the Amazon console, obviously. And the way I did it was I used a post. So you can mainly call a web endpoint two ways. The first way is through the URL parameter, which I'm not doing, so I'm not going to show you that. The other way is called, and that's a get. You use the HTTP verb get. The other way is to do a post, which is the option that I'm going to use and show you in another video. So if you copy this function URL by clicking the little squares next to the name of the function URL, and you opened a tab in a browser, pasted it there, and click enter, it would actually run your code. But if your code accepts parameters, and in this case we didn't provide parameters, it would fail. If it doesn't have parameters, it should succeed as long as the code compiled correctly. There were no syntax errors. Okay, so here's exactly what I just mentioned. So I opened a tab, I pasted the URL, the Lambda function, and the URL for the Lambda function, and I got, I have an error. In my case, I know the error is probably telling me that, I didn't pass the parameters, which I expected. But I was able to integrate this with my code. I haven't shown you that yet, but when I integrated with my code, I was able to send myself a test message. So that's how I know that that's what the problem is here, and that the code actually works. Okay, back here, I'm just showing the information on the function URL, and you can tell that the function URL has changed. I didn't hide it here, but it's changed. So if you try to run it, it's going to fail for you anyway. But there's one thing I want to mention here. So if you click delete and then you confirm the delete by entering the delete, one issue that you're probably going to run into, and we can get into that into another video, but if you try to run your function and it doesn't work, maybe even from the URL, you may need to enable cores. And like I said, we'll talk about that because it's too much to get into here. But I just wanted to show you that quickly. So click create function URL, auth type none, and then here under additional settings is where you would tell it that you want to use cores. And cores is cross origin resource sharing. And here basically gives you a brief description of what it is. But basically, when you call a function from the same domain, it's trusted. When you call it from a different domain, it's not trusted. So you have to tell the, whatever is hosting the function, where the code is going to run, that some other domain or site or whatever location is trusted by providing the name here where in the section it says allow origin. Click save and your changes are saved. So that's all I wanted to show you in this video. I know it was a lot to digest, so we went through it very quickly, but this just gives you an idea of what it takes to create a Lambda function that performs a simple task. And later on, I'm going to show you how to integrate that with the page that's going to call it, which gives us the dynamic functionality for our static website. Like I said, this is a lot for you, especially if you're not a developer. Well, hopefully you got something out of it, right? You can always, I guess, partner with someone and have them do the work for you, but you would have some idea of what they're doing, what's involved that may be important for costs. For me, it was worth going through this exercise was worthwhile because I'm actually using this and saving myself a bunch of money by using serverless functions, Lambda, instead of running my own virtual website, which is probably going to sit most of the time, and I'm going to end up wasting money. All right. Hopefully you got some value from this. See you next time.